Welcome to Fearless with Jason Whitlock. I am Jason Whitlock, your host. Is this caller correct? Yes. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us on this wonderful, happy Thursday. I just had a great cup of coffee. I'm fired up about today's show. We're going to, me and Steve Kim, I have not talked to Steve Kim. This is not a rig fight. But I'm going to start the show by making Steve Kim admit that Notre Dame is more playoff worthy than Miami. So sparks should fly early and often. We got a great Thursday night football game to talk about, an important one, the Cowboys and the Lions. We got some stuff about Mike Tomlin that I want to talk about. Big Ben says that Tomlin should go to the Penn State Nittany Lions. Deshaun Watson's back on the football field. Ryan Clark has defended old dirty bastard or old broke joke, OBJ, Odell Beckham Jr. Scap's going to join us, and we'll talk some NBA. I think it was Richard Jefferson that made the argument that the Paul George trade, Paul George going to the Clippers and the Clippers end up giving up SGA before anybody knew he was SGA, is much worse than the Luka Dončić trade. That's kind of interesting. We'll get Scap's reaction. I'm going to allow Scap to gloat about LeBron James throwing a tantrum on the court and being a cancer for the Lakers. I'm going to let him gloat because I was actually giving LeBron a chance to, turn over a new leaf and be a good third wheel, second wheel on a Lakers team that's better than anyone anticipated. We'll get Scap's take on Chris Paul being a cancer that had to be removed from the Clippers. Matt McChesney is going to join us. He says that Colorado is slashing coaching salaries 20%, not Deion's, the assistant coaching salaries 20%. That's Deion's punishment for the 3-9 season that the Buffaloes had. And then we'll end the show. My friend, John Rich will be in studio. This is an interview I taped earlier this week. Me and Jeffrey Steele sat down with John Rich about his new song, A Righteous Hunter. It's an amazing conversation. We'll play a taste of it for you at the end of this show and then send you to the BYOG channel to watch the full interview. I tell you should do that. Saw John Rich again last night. I was at a marvelous event. You guys should go check my Twitter feed. I probably ran into my two favorite women in the political space right now. And everybody's out for my girl Candace Owens, and I'm going to stick with her. We'll see. It sounds like there's going to be a great debate and battle between Candace and Turning Point USA. I like Turning Point USA. I like Candace Owens. That's a rarity that anybody could do that. But if I'm choosing between a human being and an institution, a human being versus an institution, I'm likely going to side with the human being until I'm presented irrefutable proof that the human being has gone completely off the rails. And so, anyway, I ran into Candace Owens last night, and then I ran into Marjorie Taylor Greene as well. So check my Twitter feed for pictures of that. I put up a picture of me and Aaron Lewis. Aaron's written probably one of my favorite songs of the last decade. Am I the only one? He was at the party. Everybody was at this party I was at last night. From Tucker Carlson had an event here in Franklin. Alex Stein, who I wanted to invite on the show, but I got too much going on. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe Alex will stick around Tennessee for one more day. I could have got him on this morning. I should have asked. Anyway, we have a great show for you today. I'm on a bit of a time crunch, so I need to quit rambling and just get to it. And so the first thing I need to tell you guys to do on Apple is hit that 5-star rating. It's important. It helps us fight the algorithm. The other thing I need you to do is thank our sponsor, and particularly at this time. You want to send Jesus a Christmas present? I got the perfect gift. It's called Preborn. Preborn is the organization that supports our worldview and Jesus's worldview that life begins at conception. Preborn is in the fight with the abortion industry, the abortion mill. Preborn provides expectant mothers who are considering an abortion. They provide them an ultrasound. Ultrasound introduces that baby's heartbeat and image to the mother, and now that mother's like, holy cow, this isn't a clump of cells, this isn't a fetus, this is God's greatest gift growing inside of me, and now she is twice as likely to choose life, and that's where Preborn says, baby girl, I got you from here for up to 2 years. Preborn will support that child and that mother through the birth process. Preborn is, anybody that's watched this show, you know how near and dear Preborn is to me. We all have to send Preborn in this month a Christmas present. I give monthly. I give from time to time just because I want to feel better about myself, because I want to put a little smile on God's face. This is the time to do it. You want to send Jesus a Christmas present? Support Preborn. Support life growing in the womb. There's this whole secular movement trying to destroy babies in the womb. We need to be on the other side of that fight. December, perfect. First Christmas present you should get should be for your Lord and Savior. That's the first. And that, what are we at? December 4th, December 5th, December 4th. Get Jesus out of the way early. And then you can focus on the rest of your family. But get your king taken care of right now, today. 2 ways to give. Pound 250. Say the word baby. That's pound 250 on your smartphone. Say the word baby. Or give the way that I prefer to give, preborn.com/fearless. And I'm putting pressure on myself because I've done things out of order. This morning, I sent my mother some money to do Christmas shopping, and the first thing I should have did was send Jesus a gift, and that's by giving the Preborn. So I'm going to do that today. Sorry for getting things out of order, but anyway, preborn.com/fearless. Pound 250, say the keyword baby. All right, I had to take care of Preborn. I'm sorry, I get talking about Preborn and I get away from. Is Steve Kim ready to go? Steve, welcome back to the show. And I just want to throw the floor over to you. People are upset with me over Twitter that I keep pointing out that Notre Dame is a more worthy playoff team than Miami. And I know that Miami beat them by 3 points at the start of the regular season. I know they both have 10-2 records or whatever, but it's clear as day that Notre Dame is far more worthy, and at this point of the year, a far better team than Miami. The floor is yours for you to co-sign for everything I just said.
Okay, I see what you were doing, trying to create farming engagement and then leveraging my expertise and my loyalty to the U. I get what you're doing. This is worse than most of your Caitlin Clark WNBA takes. Seriously. I mean, you, as a former player way back when, decades ago, should know the games matter. They're not everything, but they matter. And I would state that in a tiebreaker, when both teams have the same or approximate records, the results matter. I was at that game. That score is a little bit deceptive. Miami controlled most of that game pretty handily. Now, with that being said, I think the other story is, and I tweeted about this, Jason, we can get into it later, I actually think both teams are playoff worthy. Now, you're talking about who's more playoff worthy. Well, I'm biased, but I will say this. Miami, since losing to SMU, is an ascending team that has controlled most of their games, if not dominated. But again, Jason, as a former player, I ask you, do the games matter or not?
Yes, I believe the games matter. Yes, I do. I believe the games matter, but they matter less than they used to. And that's not my fault. That's this playoff system. I used to be, everything was about, there was some year back in the early 1990s, I'm sorry, I'm beating my head over the head, where 2 teams fought head to head or played head to head, but one of them finished higher, I think, in the rankings, or there was a debate about who should be number 1. And it was the team that actually had lost the head to head, ended up finishing higher.
I know what year. 1993, I believe, Florida State was number 1. They go to Notre Dame and they lose that game. And the next week, Boston College, led by, I think it was Tom Coughlin's final year there, They upset Notre Dame, and in the ranking system, Florida State kept winning. They ended up playing Nebraska in the Orange Bowl to finish
Yeah.
number one, Bobby Bowden's first national title.
And so
God,
back then, I wrote columns saying this is a travesty, head-to-head matters, how can you do this? And I was just pounding my fist. I was like, head-to-head matters. Now that they've expanded the playoffs, expanded the season, and all this, the regular season just doesn't mean as much. And so when I look, in my view, when I look at the eye test of who I think would win right now, I say Notre Dame. I think they've made more improvement over the course of this season. I think they've been dominating teams pretty much the second half of the season. And when they lost, I think Texas A&M was their second game, and they went 0-2. Yeah, I said in my mind at that time, Notre Dame will win its next 10 games, and they'll be in the playoff hunt, and they'll be in the playoffs. And I feel like I've been proven right. I think Marcus Freeman has done an amazing job. And I know that Miami, after some hiccups, has looked good the last 2, 3, 4 weeks. But Notre Dame, to me, has looked like a playoff team ever since. Even in their losses to Miami and Texas A&M, they look like a playoff team every weekend to me. I can't say that about Miami.
First of all, I look at Notre Dame's schedule, and all I see is Clamato and V8 and Campbell, a lot of tomato cans. Oh, my God. But okay, with that being said, we aim to be honest and fair here. After the SMU game, Miami looked bad. I went to that game in Dallas. I've never been more disgusted by a coaching performance in my life. Since that point, I will give Mario Cristobal credit. He has evolved and adapted. And again, people can say what they want about how biased I am. I thought last weekend throughout Thanksgiving, from Friday on, I thought Miami was the best team I saw in every phase of the ball game, all around. All the teams that played that past weekend, from Georgia against Georgia Tech, Texas A&M, Alabama, Auburn, Oklahoma trudging past LSU, Notre Dame smoking a really bad Stanford team, I can honestly tell you, I thought Miami was the best team, and I said that deserves to be a playoff team. That's what I think. Now, the committee always says they talk about trajectory and momentum. You're right. Miami's momentum after November 1st was not good. I believe that as they are playing as well as any team in the country, and nobody wants to see them. And you know who agrees? A man that knows a little bit more football than I do. Saint Nick Saban. That's who. I'll take his word for it.
Let me ask you this question.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what I heard you. You've already kind of answered the question, because you're saying, like, hey man, just look this past weekend. Miami was the most impressive team you saw. Yes. Am I accurate? That's basically your argument. And so you've answered my question probably, but this is my thought process. Which team do I believe could actually win this tournament? And I think Notre Dame has a...
No, it's Miami. It's Miami.
Carson, why?
Carson back, since they've opened up that offense, and they're actually throwing more on early downs. There's a couple things that have happened. A young running back who's a true freshman by the name of Gerard Pringle, he has become a focal point, or more of a focal point, of the run game. Mark Fletcher's a physical tackle-to-tackle runner. So is Marty Brown. But Gerard Pringle brings that juice and that energy. And there's a particular young man by the name of Malachi Toney, who I believe is the freshman of the year. Not just freshman All-American. He should be freshman of the year. They're actually implementing at times a two-quarterback offense because he could throw the ball. They're being much more wide open, more creative. I wish they play at a faster pace. That's my one quibble with the way Miami runs its offense. I don't like its pace. But if you look at the way it operates, Carson Beck in the last month has completed 80% of his passes. His touchdown to interception ratio is at least 10-1. They went through a funk. I'll be the first guy that I went to both losses, by the way. I may be schleprock. I may stay away for the rest of mankind, okay? However, I was also at the Notre Dame game. So I've seen the best and the worst of Miami. They have steadied themselves, but the evolution of this offense has been key. They haven't changed the structure of it completely, but they have actually done more creative things centered around Malachi Tony, and it's actually become a much more productive and efficient unit.
Am I really, I'm going to include myself, not rope you into this. Am I really arguing about nothing, Steve? Isn't it more likely that both of these teams make the playoffs?
Look, we have to be honest about this and be blunt. Notre Dame, in my view, is Notre Dame. They're like that really popular boxer that even if they win or lose a fight, they're always going to get the next opportunity. You know why? Because of the brand, because they bring eyeballs to the table. Like, let me give you an example to tie this into boxing. Ryan Garcia got absolutely shellacked his last fight in May by Rolly Romero, who's not exactly Alfredo Benitez or Ray Leonard. Guess what? Ryan Garcia is getting a title shot in his very next fight. Why? Because he's popular. Now, I don't want to insult Notre Dame by calling them the Ryan Garcia of boxing. I think they're much more legitimate than that. But that is the same dynamic at play. See, I think the bigger story is this. Notre Dame and Miami are battling for this theoretical one spot, right? And my view is I think both of them deserve it more than the fifth place SEC team. The big story this week is how does Alabama move up after struggling past a bad Auburn team? I watched that game. Auburn had
Iron Bowl.
That game.
It was a horrible game. It was a horrible game. Both teams look like slop. Both teams look like slop. I agree with you there.
But this is where the SEC officials are great. They know what they're doing. Some of those penalties on third down on Auburn, I was like, wait a minute, hold on. What in the name of Roy Kramer is going on here? And Auburn probably had the poorest ball security I've ever seen in a big game. They kind of blew that game. So my view is, okay, Alabama won. Not to a point where they get elevated. There's no other conference where you could beat a sub-500 team and get credit for it. Everyone else, you beat a sub-500 team, they say you did the Chris Rock. You did what you're supposed to. What do you want, a cookie? But in the SEC, you beat a 4-loss team on the road, and you're like, oh, wow, that was tough. There it is. There's this thing where I never really wanted to believe that the ESPN commentators were quote unquote on the take either for a conference or certain individuals. Their coverage of Jimmy Sexton and Lane Kiffin blew the roof off of that whole thing this past weekend.
Here's what I'll say in defense of Alabama, because I want them in the tournament, and I can't believe I'm going this whole big guy brand deal, but I just, it's playoffs. Alabama in the tournament. It's like Duke basketball. Put them in the tournament. You know, put Kentucky and put this big brand. What happens with Alabama, Notre Dame matters more than, you know, Vanderbilt or Tulane, James Madison, whatever. And so I want Alabama and Notre Dame and Miami, to be quite fair. I want them in the tournament. And so I may be arguing about nothing because at the end of the day, dollar signs. What's going to get the best TV ratings? Everything's driven by that. And I think having Miami and Notre Dame in, they'll figure it out. But I agree. The defense I'll make of Alabama last week is like, hey, man, it's Auburn. The records just don't matter. This game brings out the best in Auburn and in both teams. Let me put a pin there because I want to. Go ahead. I'll give you a final thought. Go ahead.
Think about this, and I'm with you, Jason. A lot of things. We actually agree on a lot of things here over the overall scope and direction of college football. But the games still matter, and a lot of these games late in the year are still about positioning. Now, do I believe that the regular season games have the impact and value that they once did, like in 1993? No, they don't, because you have rematches now, and teams can lose once or twice and still have a chance for a national title. I mean, Ohio State last year, Jason, did not even play in the Big Ten title game. In fact, they lost their last regular season game. I mean, Bo Schembechler must be rolling over in his grave watching college football, because Bo Schembechler in the late 80s had some unbelievable teams. In 1988, they lost on a last-second field goal to Notre Dame at South Bend from Reggie Ho. I guess their one Asian player, right?
I remember
then they
that.
blew a third. Then they
that.
lost to Miami. They were beating Miami 30-14 with about 7 minutes to go. And then Steve Walsh just did what he did. And Miami won a miracle 31-30. So they were basically 0-2. Jason, they won the rest of their games. And by the end of the year, if there was a tournament, they would have been one of the top 2 seeds. That was Bo Schembechler's best team of the 80s, I thought. And they were excellent. And that was a great job that Bo did. In essence, saying we have nothing to play for, but let's play this out. In the playoff system, they could have won it. But think about this. Let's bring it back to this year. Opening weekend, Labor Day. I'm in Miami. I'm watching the game at a place called Duffy's, old school Miami place. Florida State absolutely runs Bama off the field, 31-17. The next night, I'm at Hard Rock Stadium. Miami beats Notre Dame. Think about this, Jason. So now we're here. It looks like Alabama and Notre Dame were probably more in the playoffs than the 2 teams that won this game. And I know Florida State fell off the earth, but at a certain point, I get it. The games don't have as much impact, but they still should have some value. Results matter.
Well, Steve, you provoked this next comment/question by referencing Reggie Ho. I'm sure you were very embarrassed. There's been a standard set for Asian kickers, and what Young Hae Koo did to the reputation of Asian kickers, I'm sure that hit hard in your home.
What in the name of John Lee was that? My God, my nephew, great dishonor. Great dishonor. You know, if I wasn't so American, I'd send him up to Pyongyang after that. Wow, he did Charlie Brown, man. Charlie Brown. Jeez.
Yeah. Let's keep it moving. I want to talk about Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin is getting disparaged everywhere, including Big Ben Roethlisberger is suggesting that Mike Tomlin could go coach at Penn State. Let's play that clip, Sot 2.
I know it's being talked about around here a lot. Maybe it's time. Maybe it's a clean house time. Maybe it is. Maybe it's time. And I like Coach Tomlin. I have a lot of respect for Coach Tomlin. But maybe it's best for him too.
Sure.
Maybe a fresh start for him is what's best. Whether that's in the pros, whether maybe go be Penn State's head coach. You know what he would do in Penn State? He'd probably go win national championships. Because he's a great recruiter.
That's what
Ben means no disrespect here, but when your endorsement of Tomlin is he's a great recruiter, that is like saying, you know, I don't know what he really has to offer the NFL, but in college, man, he'd be a great recruiter. That's a slight.
Jason, you should. But next time you talk to Sean King on this fine program, because I was just on with him with Coach JB, he made a great point. He said that Mike Tomlin being asked to go or being even speculated about taking a college job, Sean King had a great point. He goes, how come they don't ever say that Sean Payton should do that? Or Sean McVay?
Hold
well,
for a
we know
second.
why.
Because one. I know why. They don't, because they're actually doing a great job. Sean McVay has a Super Bowl in the last few years. Sean Payton's got a team that's 10-2 that, you know, I don't think much of, and it's a testament to his coaching. But Mike Tomlin, 3 or 4 years ago, got asked a college football question. This is when Belichick was still in the NFL. Let's play SOT number 3, what Tomlin said about college coaching a few years ago.
Guys, I don't have time for that speculation. I mean, that's a joke to me. I got one of the best jobs in all of professional sport. Why would I have any interest in coaching college football? That'll be the last time that I address it. And not only today, but moving forward. Never say never, but never. Okay? Anybody else got any questions about any college jobs? There's not a booster with a big enough blank check.
Anyone else? All right.
Thank you. Anybody asking Sean Payton about that? You know, anybody asking Andy Reid about stuff like that?
So that, oh boy. Woo.
I believe that's an old clip. I believe that he certainly didn't say this yesterday, to my understanding. But, you know, he threw up Sean Payton. He threw up Andy Reid. Well, Bill Belichick's got 6 Super Bowl rings as a head coach, 2 as an assistant, and he's coaching in college football, and boosters are writing huge checks that compete with the NFL. Might Mike Tomlin live to regret that never statement?
But let's put this into context. When Mike said that, his job, there was no heat on that seat of his. He was still one of the most highly regarded coaches. He still might be. I just believe it's time for a divorce. It's been a very good relationship, but they always say that after a decade, your messaging gets old. Sometimes even the greatest things come to a conclusion and you need a fresh start. That's the feeling that I'm getting with that coach, right? But this is about options and opportunities. Bill Belichick still wanted to coach, obviously. The NFL had turned the page. They had said, he's antiquated, he's old, and he comes with other issues. Jordan. Mike Tomlin, if he resigned right now from the National Football League as a Pittsburgh Steelers coach, there would be at least 5 teams that would say, Mike, what are your plans here? Bill Belichick didn't have those options. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I would, but look, Ben Roethlisberger making that statement says a lot. And I know he was trying to be nice, polite, non-controversial, but actually he's being very controversial.
Yeah.
He's clearly saying, like, hey, man, the shine is off Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin has overstayed his time there. I want to, and this is more big. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm going to squeeze something else in, but go ahead.
To that thing, I remember when Charlie Weiss came from the Patriots to Notre Dame. He clearly said one of the most infamous things that turned out. He goes, oh, Charlie, what do you give Notre Dame and your team? Well, I clearly give us a schematic advantage. In other words, I'm a mastermind. I'm a wizard. I can X and O this. So with Mike Tomlin, hey, Mike, what do you give this program? Oh, I'm just going to recruit well. I'm just a hell of a work. I can see why that would upset any football coach.
I want to spin it off into a little different direction as it relates to Tomlin. Kimberly Martin was on Get Up yesterday, and this is what I can't stand about, and I'm sorry, ladies, for saying this, but dropping these ladies into all of these TV shows where they're talking men, talking about football, a man's game, and the next thing we got to hear some woman try to tell, here's what Mike Tomlin's thinking, and he needs to be somewhere where he's being celebrated. Let's play the Kimberly Martin clip.
Oh, if I'm Tomlin, I want out. If I am Tomlin, because you're not going to boo me and say, fire me all these years and then think you're going to get better than me. Like, I want to be where I'm celebrated. And if you guys aren't sure about me, it's time for me to go. That's how I personally feel.
Right.
But he loves that the fans are booing him. He loves that it's almost like the world against us. Now let's show who we are. The problem is the players, it's just not working right now.
And this is my problem with these sports talk TV shows, is you can't have a real conversation, because if I'm sitting there, here's what I want to say, but no, it's illegal for me to say at ESPN. Kimberly, I get, as a woman, you want to be somewhere where you're celebrated. But this is a man's game. And the great leaders are comfortable where they're not welcome. They're not worried about, again, the great journalists aren't, I want to be somewhere where as soon as I walk in the room, everybody gives me applause and everybody's happy to see me. This is how things get feminized. And you hear me talk about this all the time. Yeah. That you set a woman on a desk with a bunch of men and the whole conversation gets swung in a feminine direction where men can't say what they really think and they can't protect a masculine environment where you get at the truth, because now everybody has to bow to this feminist woman who wants Mike Tomlin and is giving Mike Tomlin advice. You should feel like me. You want to be somewhere where you're celebrated. Yeah. Well, that's not what made America great. Men didn't want to be somewhere where they wanted to be, I'm going to conquer and I'm going to claim this as my own. I don't care what you think. That's what football is about. That's what male energy is about. Is it sometimes toxic and headed the wrong direction? But it is necessary. And it's a very dishonest conversation. She puts all those men in a position. And Steve, I'm about to drive you all the way out into the middle of the ocean in dangerous waters, but I'm going to say it. This is the problem with this matriarchal black culture we have, where the women set the culture and they convince black boys and black men that, hey, meet me in this very feminine, emasculated space and adopt my mindset. And that's why, I'm sorry for saying it, but it's just factual. You look around and all these young black dudes got these feminized hairstyles. They overdose on jewelry like women. They've set the culture, and it's horrendous, and it feminizes everything. And we have too much feminine energy running wild all over America. And that's why little boys are playing sports against little girls. And we live in this illogical, delusional world. I've said a mouthful. Deal with any part of that will not get you canceled or anyway. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, I've already been canceled. Here's the thing. What's to be celebrated? This team is bad. And let me make the point. Let's say the Steelers and Tomlin have a Lombardi from, let's say 2022. I have a theory. You get about a 5-year grace period, except in Philadelphia. Think about that. They're a coach that won a Super Bowl way back when they beat the Patriots. He was out of a job 3 years later. This is a results-based, not just industry, world. And I've told you this before, Jason. The worst thing you can be in sports is not just being bad. You know what's worse than that? Being mediocre. Because when you're bad, you hit rock bottom and you realize, oh, we're going to rebuild. There's this philosophy, okay, this is ground zero, let's build it. But when you're always hovering around 9-8, 10-7, or 7-9, it's the worst feeling because you're just kind of out there in the abyss. That's what the Steeler fans are in, that abyss as of this moment. And they're watching this team. And Jason, I don't know how many more games they win. They may not even make the 9-8 win threshold. They look bad. They really do. They look lifeless. They have an old quarterback that cannot move. They don't have any real steady playmakers. The defense is not vintage Steelers. So I'm thinking to myself, wow, this is bad. And I remember a time, Jason, I don't know if you recall this. Did you know Pat Riley got fired by the Lakers after winning Coach of the Year? They had the best record in basketball. Yeah, it was my senior year of high school, 1990. The Lakers had the best record.
No. Paul Westhead.
No.
You said Pat Riley.
Pat Riley in 1990, my senior year of high school.
1990. You're right. I was going 19. I'm sorry. I was going 80. Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Westhead got fired because Magic didn't like the offense. A little bit different. So what happened was the Lakers get absolutely run out of the gym by a young Kevin Johnson. They lose in 5 games. But there was a feeling that the players had turned on Riley. His message was getting heavy-handed. They hated his arrogance. And once Magic Johnson turned on him, the rest of the squad was not going to listen. And they said, oh, we got to get rid of it. And this is a guy that won Coach of the Year and won, I believe, 4 NBA titles. But they felt as though, we got to get off this ship. So when people talk about, well, they'd never handle a black coach. Well, they've actually been harsher to white coaches who are all-time greats. It happens. But again, I have to ask Miss Martin respectfully, at this current moment, and you go by the last decade of Steeler football, there have not been a lot of good postseason runs. What is actually there to be celebrated?
Steve, we're going to move on. Before we move on, though, let me take care of a little business. I want to tell you guys about another one of our great sponsors today, Blue Chew. Blue Chew is the upgrade button for your sex life. Chewable tablets that deliver stronger, harder, longer-lasting erections without the hoops. No waiting in rooms, no pharmacy lines, just a quick online visit. And once approved by a licensed medical provider, Blue Chew sends the chews straight to your door. Made to work, and your first month is free. BlueChew.com. Simple as that. Guys, if you've been thinking about it, now is the time to try Blue Chew with your first month free. Great sex is a few clicks away. Sign up at BlueChew.com. Blue Chew tablets are made in the United States and prepared and shipped directly to your door. The best part, it's all done online. That means no visits to the doctor's office, no awkward conversations, no waiting in line at the pharmacy. Make life easier by getting harder and discover your options at BlueChew.com. And we've got a special deal for our listeners. Try your first month of Blue Chew free when you use promo code FEARLESS. Just pay $5 shipping. That's promo code FEARLESS. Visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring today's show. All right, Steve, I want to return to Deshaun Watson has been activated to practice. Got a 21-day window. I think him being activated for practice is going to submarine a lot of this Shedeur talk. And again, it's not that he's ready to play right now, but he may get a last game or two of this season. But now that there is a real quarterback option in Cleveland, and I know the last time we saw Deshaun Watson on the field, he looked like a shell of himself. He looked like someone who mentally has been broken by the massage therapist scandal. But we do know he is a legitimate first-round quarterback. He's played at a Pro Bowl level before in this league. He's played dang near at an MVP level at times in this league. Deshaun Watson being back, I think, will silence, smother, overtake a lot of the Shedeur mania, and people will now start talking about Shedeur. And look, he's got a great opportunity against Tennessee this weekend, playing maybe the worst team in football. But I just don't think it's going to hit the same. Everybody can see that Shedeur has an okay arm, limited athletic ability, and really can't process the field as quickly as you'd want from the quarterback position. And now that instead of having to jump over the midget, Dylan Gabriel, he's going to have to look better than a quarterback who has played at a super high level. I don't think he can do that.
This is terrible. This is terrible. I want Shedeur to take every snap. It's good for business. It's entertaining. Come on, Jay, are you trying to do the rope-a-dope on us? You really?
No.
Come on. There's no way anyone wants to see Deshaun Watson. You keep talking about all his accolades. You're missing a word that's very important. Was. He was at one time an ascending, maybe elite quarterback. He was a guy that one time took a team to the playoff. He was at one time very highly regarded. Let's go back. You know, it's been a decade since he won a national title at Clemson, put on a great performance against Alabama in that rematch. It's been about 5 years since he led the Texans to the AFC Championship game. I think that was a game they were ahead 24-0, then gave up the next 88 points. That's 5 years ago. Since that point, it's been all bad. He thought he was the GM. He thought he was going to leverage the Texans front office to do whatever. He was going to run that organization. He ran himself right out of town. You talked about the scandal. I'd rather see Brian Sipe or Bernie Kosar right now at quarterback for the Browns than Deshaun Watson. Give me Shedeur or give me death. That's what I have to say about this whole thing. Yeah.
Luke, who would you rather see, Deshaun Watson or Shedeur Sanders? Oh wow, he just said Shedeur, which shocked me.
You're good.
He didn't say it with a lot of confidence, but he did say it. Peyton, who would you rather see, Shedeur or Deshaun Watson? Deshaun Watson. That's Peyton. We've hired someone with a brain, with a college degree. You know, Luke is dumb like me. Tess, who would you rather see, Shedeur or Deshaun Watson? Thumbs up for Shedeur, thumbs down for Deshaun Watson. She's in a room where I can't be heard. Is Tess listening to me? Oh, they're 30 seconds. Tess, they're 30 seconds behind their list. Ren, while she's coming up with an answer, you think thumbs up, thumbs down. Thumbs up for Shedeur, thumbs down for Deshaun. Oh, she can't. 30 seconds. Thumbs down. She went thumbs down. I don't remember who that is. You know who can hear me? She went thumbs down. Who is that? She wants to see Deshaun. I said Shadon. You know who can hear me right now? You know who can
Whitlock,
hear me is Justin.
Mr. Whitlock, let me ask you something.
Yeah.
Are you talking about who gives the Browns a better chance at winning, or in terms of the entertainment value and the story? I think
I'm
those are
talking about
two
the
different things.
entertainment value and story.
Oh, then
I'm
it's
talking
Shador.
about
Then it's
entertainment
Shador.
value and story.
There's
the guy that
there's
got
no
crushed.
debate. It is Shador. It is Shador.
You know who can hear me? The chat. Yeah. Oh, wow. Justin just said Shador. These guys are all selling me out. The chat has
It's a show. It's a show.
some. Deshaun Watson could have the most incredible comeback story in history. Destroyed by his.
Okay.
It's the oldest story in the book. Destroyed
So in
by
other
his
words, it could be a
penis,
happy
and he-
ending. Yeah, we get it. But come on.
Yeah, it could be a
No.
happy end. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Shador brings heat. He brings interest. If you put two Brown games at the same time together, and you could clone the teams, and one game had Shador as your starting, and the other one had Deshaun, 99.95% of America would go to the game to watch Shador. We have to admit that. This is not an endorsement of him. I'm not necessarily a fan, but nobody wants to watch Deshaun Watson in 2025. That is the reality, Whitlock. Jeez, come on.
Oh, I just got a text from Tess. I can't stand Shador. He makes me cringe. She's
Right.
saying that knowing that Deshaun Watson has these massage problems, but she can't stand Shador.
Right. But
That's a
that
powerful
means,
statement.
But you could hate watch. Aren't there things that you watch, like you watch Angel Reese, you cannot stand her, but you watch it and you're kind of compelled, like, wow, this is pretty fascinating, right? Trust me, I've been on a lot of these shows where we talked about Angel Reese, and you don't have a fat head of her in your living room. Tess, she did not answer the question. She did not answer the question.
Justin saying the chat is all in on Shador, so
Chat,
maybe I'm wrong
you
here.
are fine people. Chat, you guys are okay, man. I hear what you say about me. You're okay, though.
Steve,
You're okay.
give me one more second here, and then we'll talk about tonight's really important Thursday night football game. But I want to take care of a little bit more business and advise you guys, if you really want to support what I'm doing here, what we're doing here on Fearless, the number one thing you have to do is go to fearlessmission.com and become a subscriber to Blaze TV. Listen, there's these forces against the kind of free speech that we exercise here, the defense of the patriarchy, the defense of Christian values, the defense of a manly culture. And only organizations like The Blaze are supporting the level of free speech that I exercise here on a daily basis. Go to fearlessmission.com. You can save $20 right now off a Blaze TV subscription for as little as $8 a month. You can be a part of reshaping the future. That's fearlessmission.com. Become a subscriber. I'm imploring you. I'm saying it's very, very important. All right, let me get back to Thursday night football and get Steve Kim up and out of here, hopefully in a timely fashion. But this game's kind of fascinating, Steve. Dallas is 6-5-1. The Detroit Lions, the game's at Detroit, is 7-5. Feels like a must-win for both games. The entire NFC West has 9 victories, or 3 of those 4 teams have 9 victories. It looks to me like Detroit has to figure out a way to win its division, and Dallas has to figure out a way to win its division. And I don't think these guys can lose another game. Steve, let's just start with the basic. What do you think happens here? Detroit's got some serious injury problems. Dallas is an ascending team, in my view. I kind of like the Cowboys tonight.
You know me, I'm Dan Campbell's biggest fan, but we got to be honest. I don't think he's done a great job here. Some of those decisions he's made, and they miss Ben Johnson. That offense does not have that same magic or the mojo. And Jared Goff, as you like to say, factory settings. He's gone back to it. I have not been a fan of Detroit's secondary at all. I think it's one of the worst. Every game they seem to give up big plays at the worst times. And what does Dallas do well? They throw the ball well. And George Pickens has been an absolute revelation alongside CD Lamb, who's been inconsistent, but that's a dynamic duo. So I look at this matchup, right? I got to go with Dallas. And if this happens, let's say Dallas makes a run, we need to have a whole new discussion about the football acumen of one Jerry Jones. I think he's done a good job rebuilding on the fly there.
Detroit is at home giving up 3 points, which is basically like, hey, these teams are evenly matched. You know, if Detroit were healthy, this line would probably be 4.5 points. I think even Vegas thinks Detroit's going to lose this game, setting this line at -3. Dallas is the hot team. Dak is having a really good year. All he needs is a record that matches. If he could get to 10, 11 victories, I think people would be giving Dak his flowers, particularly given the fact they moved on from Micah Parsons right at the beginning of the season and everyone kind of lost hope. And you're right, there's two big winners in this, and Jerry Jones would be the biggest winner. If somehow Dallas could win tonight, get to 7-5-1, Philadelphia is a sinking ship in my view. Dallas then plays Minnesota that has no quarterback. The Chargers, who have a banged-up Justin Herbert, and they're inconsistent. Washington Commanders, who have been pretty much hot garbage this year. And the New York Giants with that. Can I call? Will I get in trouble for calling Jackson Dart a wigger? Could I do that?
Well, you could say it. I would never say
offensive?
that. But you could say it. Yes.
Luke wants me to say a white boy that's got motion, and he just said that in a very white Oklahoma voice. Yeah, I think Luke thinks he has motion.
He's
Peyton,
Malibu's most wanted.
He's
Malibu's most wanted.
Yeah. Can I call Jackson Dart a wigger? Is that inappropriate? Is that out of bounds? Thank you. I'm getting. Peyton has given me the pass. I can say that. I'm not a Jackson Dart fan. So I could see Dallas running the table. I don't see Detroit running the table. I see Detroit running into another iceberg tonight. And if Detroit somehow misses the playoffs this year, I think it's going to spring. And Detroit still has to play the Los Angeles Rams, Pittsburgh, which is kind of toast. Minnesota is toast. And then they finish the season with the Chicago Bears. But I think a conversation's going to be had this offseason about, are we fooling ourselves here with Jared Goff? Is he really a Super Bowl quarterback? I don't think so. I've never thought so. And that's not harsh criticism. It's just like, he's a guy.
He's solid. Look, he's already, in all fairness, he's had some playoff success. He has a Super Bowl appearance. He's won a few playoff games, even in Detroit. But starting with last year's implosion against the Commanders, where he threw, 5 interceptions, and then Ben Johnson, the offense just does not look the same. Also, I didn't realize that Sam Laporte, I believe, is out for the year. Amon-Ra St. Brown is banged up. The offensive line from the very beginning of the year went through a lot of transitions, and they're not the same offensive line that we had seen the previous 2 years. All of that, none of it is good.
Steve, I'm going to let you go and move on to Skapinac. We're going to talk a little NBA with Skap. Next. And I think it's a horrible look for the state troop. I think they had every right to pull him from the game and say, hey, man, what are you doing? Go home. Perfect. But that's the end of it. This is not the Texas A&M massacre. This isn't an example of police brutality. This is a Texas A&M fan wearing his work uniform, doing security at a game, that is watching this magical, undefeated season blow up in his face. And this dude fanned out briefly and did something really stupid, but that's it. And I'm watching people try to turn it into much more than that. right, welcome back. Time for some Skapinac and time to talk a little NBA action. Richard Jefferson, former player turned broadcaster. The Paul George trade, he argues, worse than the Luka Dončić trade. Let's watch Richard Jefferson unpack this at Shot 6.
As far as I'm concerned, if you look back revisionist history, at this point in time right now, you would most likely look at the Clipper trade worse than the Dallas trade for Luka, in my opinion. You would look like people understand this.
For sure.
Because Dallas also ended up getting Cooper Flag, right? Because of the results of that trade, they ended up getting Cooper Flag, where OKC ends up getting, I think it was J-Dub, and they got Shea. Shea's won an MVP and won a championship, so boom, that's stamped. That stamped is like, you gave up a finals MVP. A future MVP.
It probably got Shea too, RJ.
I'm just saying from that.
Now that I'm thinking about it. No, I'm just saying you're right.
Like,
I'm just thinking
Shea
why
doesn't get the love that he deserves. Shea doesn't get the love.
Yeah.
Shea is an iconic once-in-a-generation player. That's facts. His consistency, his numbers, his performance. We gloss over because it was multi-years back before he was that dude, but a lot of people thought he had potential to be very special. They just didn't know how special. Well, he's shown them how special he is. So now when you look back on it, it's like, hey, yeah, they traded Luka. Luka still has to go get that finals MVP and championship, which we believe he will. But Shea's already done that.
Gap, is Richard Jefferson on to something here?
I mean, he's making a lot of sense. I wouldn't like totally reject his premise right now. They did. He alluded to the fact that Jalen Williams became one of those picks became Jalen Williams. That's true. So look, last year, Jalen Williams was an all-star. He was all-NBA third team. He was all-NBA second team defense. He, along with Evan Mobley, were the only two players league-wide to make an all-NBA designation and an all-NBA defensive designation last year. So, I mean, you've got in Jalen Williams a top 20 NBA player right now. You've got a top 2 player in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, both netted from that trade for Paul George. And they still have, Jason, the Clippers' first-round pick this season. The Clippers are atrocious. They're 5-16. That's probably going to be, at the very least, a top 5 pick. Could very well be the top pick in the NBA draft this year, potentially, that the Thunder might still have when they're about to win 75 games probably this year and another NBA championship. So, look, Paul George, what did he do with the Clippers, by the way? 5 seasons. He averaged 52 games a year on average for 5 years while he was with the Clippers. So missed about 30 games on average per season. They won 3 total playoff series in the Paul George tenure in LA, and they gave up Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And one final point here. Look, we've seen some boneheaded swaps on draft night. Like the Charlotte Hornets drafted Kobe Bryant and gave him up on draft night to the LA Lakers. But the Clippers had Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in the building for a whole year. They got to see him for his entire rookie season. Like they had the experience of seeing him day in and day out, see what kind of work ethic he had and so forth. And they still got rid of him as part of that trade. So, RJ, Richard Jefferson making some sense on that soundbite you just played.
He's making some sense. I want to help Richard Jefferson out here. I think it's a different category of trade. Luka is like, he's a finished product, and he's moving into his prime. It's like, hey, you should have been able to see signs with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, but it wasn't a finished product. And so here's what I would analogize the Paul George trade to. And Richard Jefferson shouldn't think this way. He's not a football guy. But Paul George is the Herschel Walker of the NBA. Herschel Walker was this really great college football player who went to the USFL and then who came to the NFL and had a solid NFL career, a Paul George-like professional career. who got traded and hoodwinked the Minnesota Vikings into thinking like, oh, you know, we can win championships built around Herschel Walker. And no, you couldn't, because Herschel Walker, as great as he was at Georgia, as great as he was as a college player, he wasn't Bo Jackson, he wasn't Walter Payton, he's not Barry Sanders, he just not. Same deal with Paul George. People kind of thought like, hey, Paul George may be a baby Kobe Bryant. Nah, you've overestimated how good he is. And the Clippers got hoodwinked. And I was someone at the time when they're pairing Kawhi Leonard with Paul George, I thought, hey, they're pursuing a championship. And so I consider the Luka trade worse because Luka was such a finished product and was in the MVP race. You get SGA and these other guys on Jalen Williams on spec, and it's turned out that's kind of what Dallas did. They traded away Herschel Walker and got a bunch of speculative draft picks and young talent, and they used it to build a championship team. And so I think me and Richard Jefferson, at the end of the day, we're both saying the same thing, like, man, this is a historically bad trade that's going to make one franchise invincible, like the Dallas dynasty. But you know, people think more about the Dallas dynasty than they do the Minnesota Vikings were a group of idiots. And that's kind of how I think this is going to play out. People are going to think about the OKC dynasty and not think about how stupid the Clippers were, because at the time, people thought, this makes sense. The Clippers with Kawhi Leonard, they can win now, and the Clippers need to win now. Whereas the Luka trade, from the moment it happened, people were like, this is stupid. Are you kidding me? Luka Dončić is getting given to the Lakers. Anyway, that's the distinction I would make. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I know. I agree with you. And I still think, for my money, the Luka Dončić trade, I agree with you, is still worse. The RJ soundbite makes sense to me, but the Dončić one is definitely worse because he was a historical all-time great player already. He made 5 straight first-team all NBA selections, but when they traded him, he already took them to an NBA championship. He has the second highest scoring average in the playoffs in NBA history, behind only Michael Jordan. So he performs in that time of the season as well. And you just gave him away. You can see the package right here. It's a terrible package. A first-round pick, which that isn't even the first-round pick ultimately that became Cooper Flagg, by the way. And Anthony Davis, he's played like 20 games or something like that total since they traded him. And that wasn't hard to see coming. The guy is always hurt. Whereas SGA he finished 6th in Rookie of the Year voting that his first season with the Clippers. He averaged 10 points per game. So there was still some evolution that needed to be done by SGA. And then they needed to they needed to turn, I should say, the GM, Sam Presti, one of the great GMs in NBA history for the Oklahoma City Thunder. He had to turn those first-round picks into something. So, like Jalen Williams wasn't a can't miss. He was the 12th overall pick in that draft. So, they still, it was a speculative package, like you said. The Thunder actually had to make those things become something. Whereas Luka Dončić was already established as something, which is one of the great players in NBA history when you look at the first 6-7 years that he laid down in Dallas. So I'm with you, Jason. I still put the Dončić trade as worse than this one, but RJ did make some good points there.
I want to move on and give you an opportunity to gloat. It seems like very quickly, early on, I've already been proven wrong for giving LeBron a chance to do the right thing here, play second, third fiddle in the Lakers and coast to a maybe Western Conference Finals. That doesn't appear to be what's happening here. Let's play SOT 10. JJ Redick calling for a timeout. The Lakers are getting their brakes beat off of them by the Phoenix Suns, and LeBron is yoking it up with the Phoenix Suns players rather than getting to the timeout. Let's play the clip, and then, Scap, I'll turn the floor over to you to gloat about LeBron reverting to factory settings.
Gave a little bump, and Gabe went flying, and he stepped back and knocked down the jumper.
And I know Lakers fans, this is about as bad as it gets when Brooks is the guy doing damage to the purple and gold. 27 assists for Phoenix on 39 baskets.
Lakers want a timeout, and the officials don't see JJ out on the court. 49 seconds left in the third, so the second and third quarters have basically belonged to the Suns.
Yeah. LeBron doesn't look happy or competitive with the Lakers. There's, he's out there stat padding, trying to get his 10 points and all that. Probably not happy with Bronny's role. Scap, let me shut up. Go ahead and say I told you so.
Well, look, Jason, you know what a timid and meek guy I am. I'm not that confrontational. I'm not an I told you so kind of guy, Jason. But I did tell you so, though. I did. I told you that this was going to happen. I told you that it wouldn't take that long. You alluded to his point, his stat padding. It happened in that same game. And even for LeBron, who has some of the worst looks in NBA history, this is one of the worst looks, I think. He's out there down 25 points. In the fourth quarter, a day after he load managed.
I thought that was third quarter.
It was the fourth quarter.
Not the third quarter?
No, it was the fourth quarter, Jason.
All right, continue.
The fourth quarter, JJ took a timeout with 8 minutes to go, 8:03 to go in the fourth. LeBron had 6 points on 2 of 7 shooting. They were down by 25 points. A night after LeBron load managed and sat out the whole game, after he had missed the first month of the NBA season, and he's out there logging extra minutes down 25 to jack up enough shots to get to his all-important double-digit point streak. And then the second he hits his 3, he checked himself out and walked out of the game. As you can see, look, there's under 7 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, down 25 points. And then that's it, Jason. He walked right off the court after that. He made that shot. You see him walking. It's over. He got his 10. That's all he cares about. Jason, this is going to be bad. Like, they've played garbage teams since he returned, but the writing is on the wall. This Lakers team isn't as good as they're showing record-wise. I look at the net differential right now, and that's a real indicator of how good teams really are. The Lakers are only plus 3.2 right now per game on average. To put that number in context, the Thunder are plus 15, the Houston Rockets are plus 11, and the Denver Nuggets are plus 9. Those are the other top 4 teams in the West. You have to go all the way down to the 7 seed right now with those Phoenix Suns, who they're plus 3.4. They're actually a little better than the Lakers in net differential right now. The Lakers are truly like a 7 or 8 seed the way they're playing. They're the 18th net rated defense, the 7th net rated offense. There's nothing special about this team. They're getting it done on the back of Luka Dončić and Austin Reeves by the skin of their teeth. But LeBron's coming in here and losing 9.5 points per 100 possessions defensively that he's on the floor for this team. They're not going to be able to overcome it once they start playing quality teams, which they haven't since his return. This is going to be a disaster in the postseason for the Lakers.
I think the other thing that I thought I read or saw is that there are clear stats that show they're better with LeBron off the court and another player on the court. I can't remember the
Marcus Smart,
name of the player. Marcus Smart. Thank you. And that it's clear as day that the data says, hey, we need to be keeping LeBron off the court, and they're stuck with having him on the court. I'm sure LeBron can read stats. He may not be able to read Roots or or the autobiography of Malcolm X, but he can read stats. He probably knows it. I just don't know what's the solution here. I don't know if with this attitude and what he's doing, who wants LeBron? And I'll combine these two topics. Like, we could never get to a point where he's Chris Paul'd, could we?
I don't think so, because as long as Jeannie Buss is the governor of the team still to this point. Of course, the Buss family ceded their control.
Hold for 1 second. Hold for 1 second. We don't use the term governor on this show. I give no quarter to woke. She's still a part of the ownership group or whatever, I think. So anyway, continue. I just don't like governor. I don't. She's not Gavin Newsom. She's the
What
owner of the
I'm
Lakers.
saying
Go ahead.
is she's still running the show to some degree, making decisions, heavily involved in the day in and day out operations of the LA Lakers. And Jeannie Buss, for whatever reason, is still like a principal card carrier of the LeBron James bootlicker and jock sniffer fan club. I don't know why. He has done nothing but flush this organization down the toilet, since that cheap, chintzy bubblegum championship they stole in the Disney bubble during the COVID stoppage. Other than that, this guy is basically missing the playoffs or losing in the first round every single season. And now he's setting to sabotage this playoff run. They're going to lose in the first round again, Jason. I can see, I'm reading the tea leaves right now. It's as plain as day. The LA Lakers are probably going to win near 60 games hiding him in the regular season, but there's no way to hide this guy in the postseason when you get a quality opponent and you got to beat him 4 times out of 7. They're just not going to do it. Then they're going to lose in the first round again under the stewardship of LeBron.
You think they can win close to 60 games, though, given all that you said? I mean, I know they got an easy schedule right now, but they can, the West, they can win 60?
Well, here's the close. I think they'll win around 50. Last year, look, they won 50, I think 51 last year with Luka only there for 30 games, roughly. And AD and Luka kind of swapped midseason, essentially. But they were the 3 seed in the Western Conference last year. The Thunder won 68. The Rockets won 52. They were the 2. And I think the Lakers won 51. They were the 3. So with a full healthy kind of looking season coming from skinny Luka now all of a sudden, and he's averaging like a 35-point triple-double nearly, and Austin Reeves has made this big ascension now this year. He's looking like he's a second-team All-NBA kind of caliber player. So, yeah, I think they could add 5-6 wins on to their regular season output, especially addressing their center situation with DeAndre Ayton as well in the offseason. That was a disaster for them last year. So, yeah, I could see the Rockets winning around 60-61, being the 2 again, and then the Lakers they're going to be in a dogfight with the Nuggets probably. The Nuggets and them are going to win between 55-57, and whoever wins that battle will be the 3 seed. So the Lakers are, again, going to be the 3 seed like they were last year, but they lost in the first round to the Minnesota Timberwolves in the 3-6. And don't look now, Jason, but I believe the Minnesota Timberwolves are in the 6th seed again. So that could just be like a rematch of last season, and I would favor the Timberwolves to win again this year in the playoffs.
Help me understand, and again, I know it would be difficult. But you have Luka Dončić in his prime, 35, maybe about to have his best season ever, and he's the future. He's just 26 years old. And then you have LeBron James, and you're telling me on this same roster, in the NFL, there are stories right now floating around that Dillon Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders can't coexist. And I read that and I laugh and go, yeah, a 3rd-round midget and a 5th-round Nepo baby can't coexist. What are we talking about here? Just dust them both. Just move. Let Bailey Zappi, turn it over to Bailey Zappi and Deshaun Watson. But it feels to me like you're going to waste one of Luka Dončić's prime years fiddling around with LeBron James. It's like, why not just swallow the money? This guy, this new owner, has got more money than, just about anybody. Why not just cut the cord with LeBron James? Why not Chris Pauling?
If it were me, if I were the decision maker, ultimately, I would do it. He is untradeable. You can't make the contracts work out anyway, even if the team and the player were, amenable to something like that. But LeBron also has the no trade clause. So he can dictate wherever it's going to be, or he can stop or kill any kind of conversation that he doesn't like. So to me, the contract is one element, the no trade clause is another. LeBron cannot be moved. So the only option would be to either just send him home, like the Clippers did, or to work some kind of a buyout situation with him, which would save face a little bit for him. But it's going to be a tough sell for him, though, because look, how do you negotiate a buyout on a team that's in the 2 seed right now in the West? Like, generally you would see something like that maneuver pulled with a LeBron James type character if they're not going anywhere that season and you want to allow him to be, go to a competitor for one of his last season or last 2 years. But how does the LeBron James PR machine spin that the LA Lakers want to buy him out on a viable championship contending team because he is undeniably making them worse? Like, I feel like he's not going to be amenable to that either.
Well, can't you just take it out of his hands? If you're Mark Walter, I mean, you got more money than everybody but Elon Musk and maybe Steve Barr. You could just take it out of his hand. I don't think, if I'm Mark Walter, it would be better for my organization and team. I don't think Mark Walter's sitting around going, Mark Walter, the new owner of the Lakers. I don't think he's sitting around saying, oh man, what's Rich Paul going to do to me? What's Clutch Sports going to do? I don't think he has any fear of those guys. And so just do what's best for your team. I don't think Adam Silver, I don't think the people at ESPN that paid all this money for the rights, Amazon that's paid the money for the rights, I think everybody's ready to move on from LeBron James, and I don't think they'll complain. I don't think he's the key to their television ratings any longer.
Jason, you're making a lot of sense. I'm not disagreeing with anything that you're saying here. Maybe you and I need to get together, get on a conference call Walter up, and just figure out, talk this through, hash it through, figure it out. Like, come on, Mark, what are you waiting for? Cut this guy loose.
That would be a crash landing for LeBron's image, for LeBron's GOAT discussion, Michael Jordan. No one wanted to buy Michael Jordan out. No one ever reached the conclusion that Michael Jordan can't help us win at all. And so we're watching LeBron crash and burn. But it would not surprise me because I look at this era of athletes, and I pointed this out yesterday before we had the technical difficulties, but if you look at like Lane Kiffin and just how spoiled and entitled he was in his exit from Ole Miss. You look at Chris Paul, who the Clippers are trying to let him go out with some dignity, and Chris Paul is acting like it's still 2010 and he's one of the best players in the NBA and he can question Ty Lue and question these guys, this era of athletes and overpaid coaches, I would throw Bill Belichick in there. Like, I can run around with my 24-year-old sugar baby, and this entitled deal is like you can't talk any sense into him, so you might as well just cut bait with him. But anyway, react to any of that, but let's try to focus in probably a bit more on Chris Paul, and then I can get you out of here.
Yeah, I jumped the gun yesterday, actually, Jason. I put something up. I was a little too reactionary on the Chris Paul news. I didn't wait. I let you learn a lesson, obviously, in journalism. Make sure you vet all of the sources, hear all of the story before you put something out. I was critical of the Clippers in my early take on that departure yesterday, but the more that I hear and the more things that come out of the organization, the Clippers, yeah, Chris Paul was an undeniable cancer in that locker room. He was butting heads head to head with Ty Lue, and there was some insanely awkward situation between Chris Paul and Kawhi Leonard, which really facilitated that move that really pushed the hand of the organization. Apparently, Chris Paul made some kind of a distasteful joke about Kawhi Leonard in front of the entire team in like a little players meeting, and Kawhi Leonard just sat there silently, stood up, and walked out of the locker room. So, and then that was essentially the last straw, and the Clippers ended up cutting bait with Chris Paul at that point. So, yeah, Chris Paul.
I hadn't heard that part of the story. Are there more details to that? to the Chris Paul Kawhi Leonard deal?
I'll do some more due diligence on that, Jason, and connect with you off air, and I could get you get you more details hopefully to follow on that. But yeah, this is just an embarrassing kind of conclusion for Chris Paul too as well at this point. Like he jumped LeBron James. Maybe LeBron James is heading the same way as his banana boat buddy there. As you know, these two were on that famed banana boat, Jason, with Dwayne Wade way back when. So maybe both of them could ride the banana boat off together into the sunset.
Gap, that's all I got for you. That's all I need. Thank you so much. I'm sorry.
Before you let me go,
Gap still talking. Yeah, go ahead.
I have to respectfully ask you, the next time you talk about Mike Tomlin, you got to have me on. I am born and raised in Pittsburgh. I've been suffering through that fraud for at least a decade. And now there's rumors of a Penn State job. I'm a Penn State alumni. Do not put me through this. I have to sit through this guy for 20 years as the head coach of my NFL team. And now, another 20 as the head coach of my collegiate team? Come on, stop it, please. Let's just stop these college rumor nonsense mill to Penn State. I want nothing to do with that.
Hold on, I got time. Ben Roethlisberger started this. Are you upset with Ben?
I am, Jason. I'm not a big Big Ben advocate either. I think both Big Ben, but mainly Mike Tomlin sailed under an absolute lucky star. I personally wanted Ken Wisenhunt to be elevated to the head coach position when Bill Cowher stepped down. I thought Ken Wisenhunt was the existing O coordinator at that time. I thought that he was the O coordinator of that Super Bowl team. I thought that he had earned the right to be given that job. They go out and get the 34-year-old flashy guy in Mike Tomlin with a pathetic resume, the guy who basically was like a defensive assistant at college.
But Mike Tomlin, pathetic resume? I thought he was on the Tony Dungy
Pathetic resume, Jason. He had 1 year of a D coordinator, I think, with maybe Minnesota in the NFL before he ascended to the Pittsburgh Steelers head job. 1 year as a defensive coordinator in the NFL. He was like a wide receivers coach at William & Mary. He had a couple stops at the collegiate level. The guy, there was no resume at the time to support a 34-year-old taking the best job in the NFL with an ascending young future Hall of Fame quarterback in Ben Roethlisberger and a top 3 defense league-wide. Pathetic resume, Jason. Laughable.
That's strong. I'm looking now. He had 5 years with Tony Dungy as the defensive backs coach.
D-backs coach, not even the D coordinator, Jason.
I got it. Was Sean McVay offensive coordinator before he got a head coaching job? I thought he was just a position coach, wasn't he? Or I know he started out maybe as a wide receivers coach. Oh, he was offensive coordinator with the Redskins. Look, I don't want to get overly defensive about Tomlin. That's not my deal. But
Jason, wait, real quick. Let me lay down the coordinators he had on his team when he won that cheap Super Bowl with all of Bill Cowher's players. Bruce Arians was the offensive coordinator, and Dick LeBeau was the defensive coordinator. Bruce Arians went on to win a Super Bowl as the head coach with Tom Brady in Tampa Bay, and Dick LeBeau is one of the handfuls of legendary defensive minds in NFL history who had his own head coaching background as well. So Tomlin had 2 head coaches as his coordinators when he won that Super Bowl, and a litany of all-pro defensive players. And then he got, of course, arguably at one stretch of his tenure, the best wide receiver in the NFL, and Antonio Bryant, and Le'Veon Bell, who for a little 3-year stretch was arguably the best running back, and Ben Roethlisberger, a top 5 quarterback, all to win absolutely nothing. And all I have to listen to, Jason, as a struggling Pittsburgh Steelers fan for the last decade is, oh, well, he never goes under 500. He's always winning half of his games. Yes, except for when it really matters in the playoffs. He's 8-11 now in his postseason career. 8-11. We're going on a decade without him winning a single playoff game as the head coach of the storied Pittsburgh Steelers. I cannot believe that he is still employed on that team now for probably the last 5 years running. And finally, when it looks like there's light at the end of the tunnel for me, finally it looks like I'm going to get rid of this guy. He's going to go to my college team where I graduated from college. Please make this end. I had the James Franklin, the Mike Tomlin of college, James Franklin, for the last 10 years there. Now we're just going to substitute James Franklin for actual Mike Tomlin. Ben Roethlisberger, take my Nittany Lions out of your mouth. I don't want to hear it anymore. Let's just kill this idea right now.
I do want to add a little context to what you're saying, that he started out working for Dungy. Then in 2002, Gruden came in. Gruden kept him 2002 to 2005. When the Buccaneers won the Super Bowl in 23, the team recorded 5 interceptions, 3 of which were returned for touchdowns. That's when they won the Super Bowl. But during Tomlin's tenure, the defense never ranked worse than 6th overall. Took over as defensive coordinator, or got promoted to defensive coordinator in Minnesota. The team's defense, 8th best overall, but had the unusual distinction of finishing as the top-ranked defense against the run and the worst-ranked defense against the pass. His area of specialty. So interesting. I had never done this much of a deep dive on Tomlin. I do think he's overstayed his welcome, as we've talked about. And with opportunities for Bruce Arians, Wisenhunt, that's fascinating. And Tomlin gets this, and he's now had this job how many years? Almost 20 years? Almost. Holy cow.
Yes, sir.
Anything else you want to get off your chest about Mike Tomlin?
No, thank you very much for affording me this time to talk about that, because as you can tell, I am very passionate about this situation, the Mike Tomlin situation in Pittsburgh. Fans have been fed up with this guy for years. He's protected and coddled like no other coach that I've seen on the national level. I mean, Jason, he's got LeBron type PR on the national level to withstand, to stay the course through all of these years. It's just unbelievable.
Thank you, Scap. When I come back, I want to address OBJ going broke and Ryan Clark defending it. Next. Drag you anything, but it's like I look at someone like Nick Fuentes and people that are promoting tribalism, and I'm like, well, hold on, man, can't you see what tribalism has done to black people? You want to repeat that? You want to now promote white pride? Have you not seen what black pride has done to black people? Trust me, it's going to have the exact same results on you. If you're claiming Christ, you need to be well beyond color. Skin color. And you need to understand the damage that type, pride is a sin. I'm someone that talks constantly about there are no good versions of pride. The pride is always a negative. Always. And people, oh, you don't take pride in your child? Well, I don't have one, but I'm saying, no, you shouldn't take pride in your child. You should develop them, nurture them, be pleased with them, love them. But, pride becomes something that distracts from God and will send you, it'll make you overly defensive of your child. You'll never see the mistakes that your child makes because you're so filled with pride and what they say about you.
His words are obligation, no regrets in our decisions. We all want to go to heaven with freedom. It's my obligation, no hate, discrimination, raising up your hands for freedom.
All right, welcome back. I want to wrap up the live portion of the show by discussing something near and dear to my heart, the difficulty in criticizing and or giving young black men good advice. It is demonized across all of social media. I'm dealing with it this morning on my Twitter page. I've made some comments here about, I made them on Twitter and on today's show about, hey, look, this woman, Kimberly Martin, sitting on air, I want to be somewhere where I'm celebrated. It's a man's game. It's a man's discussion. It's football. And we have to sit and listen to this woman give her take on it. And it points to and demonstrates why black men and black culture exhibit so much feminine energy and such a feminized presentation. And it's because it's illegal. If you correct black people, it's illegal, and it's called racism, or it's called selling out. Or how come you don't talk about white people? And I do talk about white people, but you can't. The only thing that black people care about, the only thing they can seem to process is, oh, someone criticized a black icon, and I must defend them. And so when I criticize Bill Belichick or any number of other people, they don't hear it. Over their head, under their head, not in their ears. I don't get it. But it's as I've said multiple times on this show, like, criticism a lot of times is the source of wisdom. Criticism is often a sign of love. You don't criticize something constructively or in any fashion that you don't also love and want to see do better. And so OBJ, let's start there. OBJ, Odell Beckham Jr., did an interview, I believe, with Ryan Clark on The Pivot, and he talked about how $100 million isn't what everybody thinks. It's really only $60 million, and I didn't know what I was doing. But anyway, let's play a taste of OBJ. This is SOT 5, talking about how, basically indicating like he blew a $100 million contract. Play the clip.
I'm going to be straight for the rest of my life. No question, right? I don't think everybody is in that. And when you've sacrificed your whole life to get here, and you're like, yeah, I played 10 years in the league. And I always explain this to people, like, bro, you give somebody a 5-year, $100 million contract, right? What is it really? It's 5 years for 60. You're getting taxed. Do the math. That's 12 a year, that you have to spend, use, save, invest, flaunt, like whatever, however, just being real. I'm gonna buy a car, I'm gonna give my mama a house, I'm gonna do, everything costs money. So if you spending $4 million a year, that's really $40 million over 5 years, 8 a year, And now you start breaking down the numbers, it's like, that's a 5-year span of where you're getting $8 million. Can you make that last forever? And you always hear the people who ain't us and ain't been in the position, like, oh, well, that would last a lifetime. Yeah.
You always hear people that ain't us. And what he's basically saying is like, hey, white people can't relate. They don't get it. All the pressure that we're under, and they can't relate, and all the people we have to help, and they can't relate. And maybe that's true. But they can't say that about me and a bunch of other black men, young men, older men. No, I've been broke. I come from a poor family. My mother was a factory worker. My dad was a businessman, street businessman, owned a bar. But when, after my parents divorced and in my senior year, when I had to move in with my dad because my mother's job moved to Kansas City, like me and my father, I've told this story multiple times, 1984, I'm living in a 1-bedroom, 400 square foot apartment with my dad in the hood in Indianapolis. He's working for a friend at another bar because the IRS has come and taken my father out for not paying his taxes. I'm not disparaging my father. I'm telling you the truth. Father is one of my favorite people in the history of the world. But I've been poor. I've lived and slept on a couch in the living room in a 400 square foot apartment with my father. And so I can relate. And I've come into a significant amount of money over the course of my career. I started making more than my parents, I think by the time I was 25, 26 years old. And by the time I'm 28, 29, 30 years old, like, I'm making real money. And because my grandmother develops Alzheimer's, I start becoming responsible for helping her out financially and helping my mother out financially, because she has to relieve her job to take care of her mother, my grandmother. And my grandmother is my favorite person in the history of the world. And so I started having to help them out. And so I know the pressure that OBJ is talking about. And anybody that's got a heart for their family, which many of us do, we know that we end up with extended family. I've seen wealthy people go through that. I could talk about my adopted family in Kansas City, wealthy people, Kirk and Susie. I won't go into their last name, but like I've seen them help their extended family. People can relate to this. OBJ is preposterous here. Kirk and Susie are white, and you know Kirk's a lawyer and done very well, but comes from a very modest family, and so did Susie. And I've seen them bring people from their family into their home and try to help raise them and support. I don't want to tell all their business. Let me tell my business. But this isn't a black-white issue. It's like OBJ has been convinced there's only this certain segment of people that can relate, and only black athletes and only black liberals can relate to the pressures he's put. And it's all a lie. And so when OBJ was young and at the height of his career, and people were looking at him exhibit behavior, it was like, oh man, he's being super irresponsible with how he's handling his career. He seems to be immersed in jewelry and flash and flaunting. And people like myself would be like, man, I don't know if these are good long-term behaviors. There's going to be problems here. And you say it in different ways, and you say it in a way to try to shake someone up. It's like a football coach that would come to me when I was a kid at Ball State, and you know, they'd say, hey man, you need to lose weight. And then they'd say, hey man, you need to lose weight. Hey, we want you in better shape, blah, blah, blah. And then they'd get frustrated and try to shake me up. And they might say, hey, you fat piece of blah, 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 trying to shake me up, trying to beat some sense into my head. And you could sit there and say, hey, that's no way to talk to Jason Whitlock. And the coach would be sitting there and say, hey, man, I've talked to him politely for months, and it's not working. The only thing and the coach can't say this, but this is what he thinks, like the only thing that gets through to this big dumb idiot is when I yell at him or punish him. And because I care about him enough and my success is tied to his success, I've now gone to the extra lengths of, yeah, I'm going to yell at him and call him names and see if that will shake him up. And I understand I used to be very frustrated with my coaches in college. But eventually I grew up and saw the wisdom in what they were doing, and in my adulthood have received the benefits from what they were doing in terms of like helping shape my worldview and get all of that single mama out of me. And that's not to disparage my mother. I'm not. But when you exist in a feminized, matriarchal culture, excuses and delusion, and no one, a man standing 10 toes down and just drawing a line in the sand with you, like my father did with me, you know, you end up like OBJ. And you end up embracing a lifestyle and an image that will make you old, broke joke. And that's what OBJ is. And now Ryan Clark and others want to rally around OBJ, and instead of letting young people learn from OBJ's mistakes. And there's a harsh reality that I grew up, some of you young guys will have never heard of this, but older guys will. There was a television show called Scared Straight, and they would take young, teenage, delinquent children, and they took them to Rahway State Prison for a day, and they let the prisoners talk to them. And so let's say they took 15 teenage kids, maybe half of them were black, some were Latino, some were white. And these prisoners got in there and started yelling at them and explaining like, man, when we get you in here, we're going to bend you over and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And this is what goes on and you ain't going to be able to handle it, blah, blah. And they yelled and screamed and cursed at them, trying to scare the kids straight. Some of them, it helped. Many of them, it did not help. And they ended up doing a follow-up, and you'd see some went on to get in trouble. A couple of them went the right way, but they tried to scare them straight. We don't allow that anymore. Everything now is, hey, if you criticize OBJ in real time, when he's making money and he's 24, 25, and he's at the height of his NFL career, but you have older eyes, and you can see, like, this dude is going to be broke. His career is not going to last as long as it should. No one's going to want to be associated with OBJ. You're the bad guy. And Jason, I'm the bad guy. Because in real time, when OBJ was doing all this dumb stuff that has made him old, broke joke, I was trying to say, hey, you idiot, stop it. Don't make this mistake. Couldn't do it. And so here's Ryan Clark coming, now that OBJ is broke and he's an old, broke joke, Ryan Clark is still making excuses for him. It's like, we constantly, because we grow up in this matriarchal culture, we try to shield young black men from the harsh consequences of a culture, a radically materialistic, degenerate culture called hip hop that they all embrace. You try to shield them from it, you're an Uncle Tom and you're a sellout, and there's always someone like a Ryan Clark that'll come in and, man, let's soften the blow. Let's explain it away. Let's play Ryan Clark defending OBJ.
I've been hearing people weigh in on what Odell Beckham Jr. said about a $100 million contract on our show. And I get it. With this age of social media and podcasting, it's good to incite people. It's good to enrage people, to get them to interact with you and to feel like you're right. But we got to think about rationale and logic and context. Odell Beckham Jr. wasn't saying that you should get a $100 million contract and that means it's okay to blow it. It's okay to be irresponsible with it. What he was saying was, when you sign a $100 million deal, you don't actually get $100 million in your palm to spend on you. Now, there's the context of it being tone deaf because there are people who will never make $100,000 in a year, much less have a $100 million contract. There are people who are laid off, people who are fired, people who can't take care of their families on the sacrifices and the work that they put in because they can't make enough money. But he's speaking from his perspective, a perspective of talent, of work ethic, of discipline that earned him those blessings. And what he's saying is that when you sign a $100 million contract, after New Jersey state taxes cut into it, after federal state taxes cut into it, then it is truly only $60 million, which is more than enough to live off forever. But then when you take care of mama and daddy and sister and brother and family and friends, which may not be the smart thing to do, but you feel like since I made it, we all made it. There are people who have sacrificed for you and people who have supported you and people who have been there for you who don't have that type of money, who don't have that type of wealth. And you do feel like you're supposed to give back to them. And then he said, too, like part of it you want to flaunt, right? Like I earned this. Like I want to go have fun with it. I want to go live a rock star lifestyle. And I'm not saying that that's the way to be. But what he was saying is at 24 or 25 years old, he didn't have the financial discipline, the financial intelligence, the financial wherewithal to do the right things all the time. And he was simply saying, if I'm never that rich again, I'd be all right. I'd be able to live. And so the context was he was just talking about things he's been through, things he's experienced, and being open and vulnerable with us and with the world. Not for the world to tear him down, not for the world to think he was great, but just to be honest. And so the context wasn't that Odell was saying he was broke, saying he blew through a $100 million contract, or saying that it wasn't a lot of money. He was just saying that this is how it felt to me. And I think we got to let people be okay with that, because how are we ever going to learn if every time somebody shares something that we don't necessarily understand or disagree with, we tear them down?
The better question is, how are people ever going to learn if we don't point out the mistakes that people are making in real time and point out the harsh consequences and call them into repentance in any way that you know how? And Ryan Clark's a father. I'm sure he's had moments where having a nice sit-down talk with his son just doesn't cut it. There's probably been, I'm speculating here, there's probably been moments when his son was 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, like, man, I got to pull this dude over my lap and spank his ass. And there may be moments when his son is 25, 26 years old, where he has to, I've tried talking nicely to him. I got to remind this boy, I brought him into this world, I'll take him out of this world. And this is the way parents talk, at least black parents, I can expect. Maybe white parents say it too. They don't mean it, but they just get a little threatening because it's like, man, what I'm saying to you politely isn't getting through. Ryan Clark has set up a standard of we don't do the right thing all the time. Well, no one does. No one does the right thing all the time. There's one person that did that. His name was Jesus. No one does. And so we can't excuse everything. Well, maybe I didn't do the right thing all the time. But there are levels to this. There are like retarded mistakes that you can make. Like buying a bunch of jewelry and putting it all over your neck so you can be dressed up like you're some African queen from the 1600s. That's a retarded mistake. And we watch it play out over and over and over again every draft night. And we never see it. It's like what's Abdul Carter, when he showed up on draft night with this big gold chain, and his daddy with a big gold chain or platinum chain on standing right next to him. Anybody with a brain could be like, oh, what are you doing? This dude is showing some immaturity that will hurt him financially and will hurt him on the football field. He's immature. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's not being discipled well. I couldn't imagine being a father. I couldn't imagine my father, when I was doing dumb things, taking pictures with me while we did dumb things together. It just couldn't happen. And it's not acceptable. I understand the instinct of, hey man, I'm making good money, high 6 figures, mid 7 figures. I understand the instinct of, hey man, I got to help my family out. But to what degree? And it's like, well, I made it, we all made it. Well, what does making it look like in terms, Jason Whitlock made it to a level in the early 1990s where it's like, hey, I drive a very nice Mercedes-Benz. I can afford this. I can pay for this. My mother, again, she's helping my grandmother get through Alzheimer's. Should I get her a Mercedes-Benz? No. What me and my brother did was pitched in money and got her a Ford Taurus that could make sure she could get back and forth and do everything she needed to do for our grandmother, her mother, Mama Lovey. It's like, she didn't have to have the same car as me. She didn't have to have a luxury car. I needed to help her out. My brother, we needed to help her out, and we did, without jeopardizing our own financial future. I had relatives, cousins that, needed a safe place to stay, needed some place where they could develop. And it's like, oh, should I rent them an apartment somewhere, or should I make the sacrifice, say, hey, come live with me? And, you can live under my roof, go to school with me. I'll make some sacrifices, but getting any and everybody a house, a car, pay this, pay that, the only way you do that, or the way you do that, it's not the only way, but the way you do that is when you set up a woman as your consigliere, your mama, or whoever it is, you're going to make a lot of emotional, bad financial decisions. And what black men don't have the courage to do is stand up to their mama and put her in her place. Love her to death, but not a shot caller. And so when you hear me calling out this matriarchal culture, I'm not speculating, I'm talking about what I know. And I'm talking about what leads people like Odell Beckham Jr. into being an old, broke joke. Your unwillingness to say, Mama, I get it. Awesome. Love the sacrifices you made. But at this point, particularly if you're single, I'm the man of the house and I'm going to call the shots. I'm going to hear you out, but I'm going to make the decision. Period. End of story. You don't like my decisions? Go get it from someplace else. That's how you should really love somebody and play the role you're supposed to play. But we have this very matriarchal culture, particularly in the black community, where mama and big sister end up being the brains of the outfit. It's not sustainable. Doesn't work. The results are everywhere. It's not just Odell Beckham Jr. This matriarchal culture, the results are everywhere. Only the delusional women can't see it. Everybody else can see it. This doesn't work. It needs to be called out. It needs to be corrected. And when you see an Odell Beckham Jr. or anybody else making these mistakes, call it out. You call it out because you don't want them to repeat the mistakes, and you want other people to recognize the mistakes. But in the music, I'm going to land the plane on this note, and I'm not going to say everything. Let me add one other thing before I land the plane. The other thing that Ryan Clark said, that all these guys are under the delusion. He said something about Odell Beckham Jr. Earned it through his talent, through his work ethic, and through his commitment or something like that. I can't remember. And the reality is the NFL and the NBA and some of these pro sports leagues, it's a genetics lottery. It's not the guy that makes it in the NFL in general isn't the guy that worked the hardest. It's the guy that was born with the most talent. And so we have this myth. Oh, do you know how hard OBJ worked to make it to the NFL? And it may not be true. And I speculate that it's not. I speculate that there were kids in his neighborhood when he was a junior high and high school kid that worked harder than OBJ, but OBJ had been blessed with so much talent, it didn't matter how hard they worked. He was going to be better than them. Same thing went on at LSU or wherever he played in college. There were guys on that team that worked harder than him, but he was blessed with so much talent, it didn't matter. I've seen it with my own eyes. The guys with the most talent, generally speaking, don't work as hard as the guys with the most talent. And this whole myth of like, oh, you just don't understand the sacrifice. Nah, man. Deion came out the womb, and it was written when he came out, man, this kid's going to be able to run a 4.1, 4.2 40. He didn't have nothing to do with that. That's all God. And so this whole that they earned it, and so therefore they need the ability to flaunt it, what they've earned. BS. BS. Last thing. Now I forgot the most powerful thing I wanted to say. I shouldn't let myself get distracted. Darn it. Last thing I'll say is this myth that it's in our nature or in that this matriarchal society that Black people have embraced, and hip hop being defined as the blackest thing you can be. Though that in combination, the matriarchal society and hip hop is the end all be all. Those two things are destroying young Black men. And when people like myself, and I'm not trying to get defensive about myself, but it just gets tiresome because I think of it like we got this whole conversation about who's evil, who's demonic, blah, blah, blah. And I'm saying it's the behaviors, the people that are sitting out there, hey, flaunting gold jewelry and expensive clothes and bowing down to the wisdom of some woman and participating in some matriarchal culture where the woman is this goddess that must be worshiped and must be affirmed at all times. It's really, that behavior is evil and demonic. I'm not calling those people evil and demonic. But just go look at the results of that mentality. Go look at the results of the matriarchy. Go look at the results of hip hop and the drugs and the radical materialism and the free sex and all the little baby mamas that get created, everybody trying to live out this black culture hip hop thing. It's a demonic mindset. And I'm done or frustrated with having to apologize for consistently trying to say there's a better way, there's a more effective way, there's a superior culture that is open to us to embrace. If we would quit trying to defend everything black and try to defend everything biblical, if we did that, if we try to defend everything biblical over everything that's black, we would have a lot more success. And for those of you that have been so feminized that you hear this rebuke, criticism, call for righteousness as, oh, that's just so offensive, and oh, that hurts my feelings, and oh, you should say this about white people. You've been that feminized that you can't handle the truth. Find another show, do something else. I'm going to stop here because I really didn't make my final point as clearly as I wanted to. Just done it. I've been talking for 2 hours now. Let's end the show with an amazing interview with John Rich. It'll start with John Rich singing the song Righteous Hunter. Just about 15, 20 minutes of a conversation I had with John Rich and Jeffrey Steele. You can hear the entire interview on the BYOG channel afterwards. But as far as Fearless goes, we'll end with the discussion with John Rich and Jeffrey Steele and myself, and we'll see you tomorrow.